Hey everyone. Wanted to do a video today. I'm kind of flat on my back. So I just decided to cover the camera and give you an audio video and just share a little bit about self regulation. I've got a snoring Boston Terrier next to me if you hear snorting noises. But I want to talk about self regulation for just a minute and what that actually means. You know, when we were babies, we didn't know what we wanted. We would cry. We were in distress. Uh, and that really is the beginning of trauma, is not just, being born, coming out of the birth canal is trauma for a baby because our minds don't understand what's going on. So they just begin to fragment. And, and also when a child is taken off of breast milk, it feels like it's starving, so it's crying, thinking it's starving, so it fragments. It creates another pocket in which to hide from facing that emotional pain. That's what fragmentation is. That's where our subconscious comes from. You weren't born with a subconscious. Well, you were after the fragmentation. But what's crazy about all of this is that when you're being held by your mom or dad, or maybe even in the absence of being held as a baby, you don't know how to respond. It's actually it's actually the way your parents have mirrored to you their response to your pain is whether or not you're able to self-regulate your emotions as an adult. This is something that I'm hoping Shauna and I will do some videos on. It's going to be good. Not sure if we're going to do it on my regular Facebook in the group or on the Patreon. But I do believe it's important to understand that a lot of what drew us into religion, even drawing us to ground in nature, is still the need to self-regulate. And so these are emotions that were not cognitively connected to the brain or to the subconscious, but are basically stuck in your nervous system and in your body, in which we begin to have a reaction, an emotional reaction, and a thought process reaction in misunderstanding how our body is trying to communicate with us that we were not given the correct mirror reflection, and that we need to come into an alignment with who we are in the way in which we self-regulate. And so just kind of imagine that for a minute, that self-regulation. And let's say you're a baby and you're crying because you're hungry, but maybe mom's holding you, and maybe mom isn't in touch with her own emotions. So she just shushes you and says, oh, it's okay, nothing's wrong, you're fine, you're fine. And even though that sounds like, wow, what a comforting thing for my mom to do, unfortunately, it didn't mirror back what you were feeling. It didn't acknowledge or validate the original emotion. And so what happens is when you're older, you wake up one day, you're feeling out of it, you're feeling discouraged, you don't know why, you don't know what you're feeling, you can't identify what you're feeling. So then you just get frustrated and confused because you don't have a feeling to identify, because you were gaslit as a baby because your parents weren't in touch or were afraid of their own emotional state and denied yours because they've denied theirs. And it is a sad thing. And it doesn't mean that your parents were bad parents. It just means they were unequipped, like most parents were. So, when you think about that, or think about the other extreme where, like in my case, it was, I would be punished for having feelings or crying. I would be told to shut up. I was a burden. I would be smothered with pillows, by my siblings and even by my parents, okay, or pushed to the side and ignored. They would walk away from me when I cried, okay, which obviously affected the way in which I dealt with, relationships, especially if my wife, in the middle of maybe an argument, if she walked away, it was the most disrespectful thing. And I would just flip out, because, oh, how dare you walk away? But what is that really coming from? It's my inability to self-regulate and release that stored emotion that I received through the mirroring effect of how my parents negated their own emotional state and therefore negated mine. So, this is something that I think, we definitely need to, look at, because, one of the things I believe that led us into religion, and for me specifically Christianity, was the fact that there was a sky daddy that could regulate where I couldn't regulate me emotionally. And I remember telling people, because I had a real anger issue, with people. I had a real anger issue. And, I remember telling people, well, you should be thankful I'm a Christian, because if I wasn't a Christian, you might not be alive right now, and then, I would be obnoxious, and people would tell me I was obnoxious, but I would let them know, hey, I didn't kill anybody today, so just be thankful. This is an improvement for me. And of course, a lot of that was my own self-justification as well, to not face my pain. But I also didn't know how to face it, because I was not given the tools or the example mirrored to me. So, what is the proper way to mirror, back to a child to teach them to self-regulate? Well, you give them, if they're sad, you give them a sad face. Oh, poor baby, you're sad. I acknowledge you don't feel good, or you are crying because you're hurting. But let me now show you what you're feeling, and let's redirect that into a positive direction of affirmation. You see, so now when the child grows up, they can acknowledge what they feel, and that what they feel is not a threat to them. And they can now embrace themselves and let go of those feelings and redirect and, transmute. And so this is something I think that, when we came to Christianity and the Sky Daddy was there regulating me, geez, it was like, well, anytime I was going to flip out, I was going to lose it, all of a sudden the Father would speak and talk me down and bring me into a place of rest and peace. And so I held on to that concept. But really what that was my inner voice, another part of me that was trying to regulate and take hold, posing as this separate father in this mind of separation that I was dealing with. So when I deconstructed Christianity and religion, it was like the Sky Daddy went bye-bye, Jesus went bye-bye, and all of a sudden I'm free falling, going down the rabbit hole and feeling like I'm losing my grip on reality. And so we're told to ground, get some crystals, get some stones, hug a tree, take your shoes off in the grass and ground. And I thought, well, okay, this is the right way of doing it, the spiritual way. And yes, there's definitely a truth and a lot of benefits to grounding. But one thing I will say is one of the reasons why many of us who have left Christianity now need to ground is because of the fact that we let go of an aspect of the Savior complex, but are still dealing with it in our own bodies emotionally, where we still struggle to self-regulate. And so grounding is now the substitute there, again, to self-regulate. And even though it's helping, and it is helping and healing in some areas, it can also become another avoidance in which we are, avoiding those aspects of ourself because we don't know how to self-regulate. So here's what I am getting that can help you. Whether you've studied the law of one or, like me, have just kind of come up with your own revelation of that, known as the power of one is what I call it. where everybody is you experiencing yourself, okay? You are everybody, and everybody is you, and so everybody is your subconscious. And so from the place of the power of one, you are going inward by being aware of every version of you as everyone else. And through that, you are looking for the mirror reflection of higher self and of who you are as love and as celebration and as these things. And as we are mirroring each other as the one, we can learn through community, which is really just the one, not codependency, how to transmute what was lost at birth as an infant, and learn how to regulate through our oneness connection, almost like mushroom mycelium networking within our love embrace of one another and conscious awareness of one another as us, now allows us to, from, in a sense, from within this oneness, there is no lie of separation, to reach for something outside of yourself to heal yourself, but it is yourself from another angle, in which you can now receive the reflection that allows you to release the emotion that is stored in your nervous system, in your tree of life. And so be aware of, when you go about your day, be aware of all of the emotions that are streaming through you, and the need to react, or the need to hide, or the need to go within, or disassociate. There's multiple ways that we react. While one might be out of defensiveness and anger because we were abandoned, or ignored, or maybe we were gaslit and we are just confused and can't access. There's also another side to it, and that is where you are in denial that you have emotional pain because your parents denied validating that pain, okay? And so there's just a lot there that we can kind of look at and see that, wow, you mean I might actually just take this lightly and say, maybe it's the pizza I ate, maybe it's this, it's not really that, because I'm in denial of it, because my parents were like, don't worry, you're okay, let's forget, let's do this instead. And so, have we been gaslighting ourselves? Have we been taking lightly what we feel because we've been invalidated? And so are we willing now to ground with purpose, but also realize where we might still have the savior complex, the need of a parental mirrored reflection, because we feel like we cannot regulate ourselves outside of the religious matrix? Or maybe, we just need to see ourselves through one another and mirror back to ourselves the embrace that we're safe, and we can now let go of that emotional distress. I hope this message has encouraged you. Please comment below what you think.